Okay, it's 6 o'clock and the July 6th meeting of the Cheyenne City Planning Commission is now in order. Will staff please call roll?
Daryl Hibbins. Justin Tripp.
Here.
Tony Laird.
Here.
Bob Mathia.
Here.
Megan Connor. Amy Hernandez.
Present via Zoom.
Lloyd Wiggum.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Are there any modifications to the agenda that we need to deal with before proceeding? Hearing none. Can I have a motion on approval of minutes for the May 18th meeting? Commissioner Laird.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I have a conflict of interest if you want to back up to that.
On my agenda, that comes next.
I'm sorry. I'm looking ahead. Never mind. I move to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2026 meeting.
Okay, it's been moved. Second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any revisions, adjustments, amendments to the minutes as drafted? Hearing none. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say, I think we get to do this by voice vote. Please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay. That motion passes. Can I have a motion on the minutes for the June 1st, 2026 meeting?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion to approve. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, adjustments, amendments, corrections to the June 1st minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of approval of the June 1st meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Item 3, disclosures, conflicts of interest, etc.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Laird.
I considered if I had a conflict of interest, but decided I did not, but I'll tell you what it was about. Just like at the June 1st meeting, my son does work for Microsoft. He's not involved in planning or design of future data centers. So I don't believe that constitutes a conflict for me in any case. He does work at the data center that campus that this proposed one on our first item is about, but he doesn't have anything to do with it until it's in operation.
Okay. Thank you. Any other disclosures, conflicts, ex parte communications? Hearing none. Will staff please read item A into the record?
Item A, PUDC-26-124, North Range Business Park, 15th filing assigned zoning.
I go first.
Okay. Will the applicant? Yes. Okay, this is assigned zoning. Will staff please read the staff report into the record?
Chair and members of the Commission, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The item before you, it is an assigned zoning. So that means this goes with an annexation. For this property, it is roughly 34.46 acres of land proposed to be annexed. It is west of Round Top Road, south of Happy Jack Road, is right next to, there we go. It's right next to North Range Business Park. Zoning in the area consists of the county LU zoning to the west. You have the BP zoning to the south and to the east. And then there's a tiny little bit of AG That's right there to the north. There's a couple of things I do want to note with this project. The June 22nd city council meeting, they did actually approve an outside water user agreement for this property already, with the assumption that it would be annexed soon after. And that is because it has an approved county site plan for the parcel already. And that county site plan is for staging area that has parking and office trailers for the construction of the existing data centers. So the parcel itself is not proposed for data center development. It is already has approval in the county for a staging area. So it already has a site plan approved, already has development, I believe, started on the property as well. That's why they got the outside water agreement through council, is so that they can hook those trailers to the water already prior to annexation. So as staff reviewed this based on existing zoning that surrounds the parcel and having North Range there, the approved industrial use from the county already approved for the parcel, staff is actually recommending that this parcel be assigned the BP zone rather than have it go through an ag zone and then into some sort of industrial zone, because it already has an industrial use on it. It's also adjacent to the BP zone, as mentioned. The ag use that is to the north, that was done under our original assigned zoning back when we took what the underlying county zone was and just gave it that, which at the time, that parcel, which is a Black Hills substation, was zoned basically ag in the county. It was, I think, A1 or A2. So that's how that became ag. Otherwise, based on the review criteria and the surrounding zoning, the current use of the land, staff recommends the BP zone for this parcel, and I do stand for any questions.
Okay, I've got a question. Looking at the staff report, kind of the cover page indicates that the current zoning is county LI, not county LU. Even though in the memo later on, it refers to a county LU. And just to complicate things further, I go to our county assessor's website and pull up the zoning, and maybe I'm not properly oriented, because it looks like this abuts is adjacent to Happy Jack Road to the north. It looks like there is a county LI zone out there.
So, Mr. Chair, through you, it is actually it's all county LU. So, but that looks like I have a typo in my staff report. Instead of a U, I have an I, but it is county LU. So land use.
Okay, I see where I'm reading the map wrong. It looks like. Okay. Any other questions of staff? Any questions from Zoom land? I guess I've got another question. Before the county did its wholesale rezoning, do we know what the prior zone was before it became the generic land use?
Mr. Chair, through you, I believe out here it probably would have been probably county A1 or A2.
Okay. Put a pin in that. I'm just thinking about our normal process, and I would like to I think everybody would want to know a little more about why we don't stick with the ag zoning.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to add to the future land use map for this area is all mixed use employment.
Okay, that's helpful.
So even even if the land was still ag, the whole area that's right here is mixed use employment. And based on even its adjacent zone districts, it and the current use of the land being industrial, it fits better as just giving it an industrial style zone district. Upon annexation, that would allow it to continue operating as a permitted use.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public here that would like to comment on this?
Yes. Chairman, Planning Commission members, Brad Emmons, AVI, I think, Boyd, you kind of went through some of the stuff that I was going to add to Connor's report. I believe you can kind of see, I think it was A2. You can kind of see it under the red crosshatch there. That was the original county zoning out here because those are the largest sized lots and they were in the old county. This is one of those times that the new county land use designation and everything being a conditional use permit is a little strange because they kind of have wrapped everything into a different process. And so it does have a conditional use for the laydown yard. This was split off just recently for this purpose of being annexed and brought into the city. I think the county platting process finished the end of June. So this did go through the county process to split this parcel off and plat it separately. It is, I believe, even though Black Hills owns both of those parcels, they do own them in two different. So it's basically two substations, one that's zoned LI and one that's zoned AG to the north. So I believe there's LI and AG there. And then recently when the city annexed the North Range Business Park, that's when the BP zoning took over the rest of those lots that have business lots on them. So happy to answer any other questions. I guess I should say we do agree with the assigned zoning of BP.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public here to comment on this item? Public comment going once, going twice. So is there anybody on Zoom land? Yep. Public comment. We should probably have an announcement for the folks on Zoom that if they intend to comment, they need to raise their hand before we close public comment.
For those members online, if you do have public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand.
Okay, well, thank you. With that, public comment is now closed. Commissioners, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Laird?
I move to recommend the governing body approve the assigned zoning for land west of Round Top Road and south of Happy Jack Road to BP Business Park, as shown in the attached zone change map, noting that the project meets the review criteria for approval.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Got our properly moved and seconded motion. Are there any comments, discussion, any proposed amendments? Hearing none. Will staff please call roll?
Amy Hernandez,
Aye.
Tony Laird,
Aye.
Justin Tripp,
No.
Bob Mathia.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes.
Thank you. Staff, please read on item B into the record.
Item B, PUDC 26-126 A and H Park at Sweetgrass expedited plat. And let me go ahead. Our applicant is online.
Applicant Casey, can you please
Good
tell us what you...
afternoon, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I appreciate you taking the time this evening. The item before you has been a long time coming. in the Sweetgrass annexation agreement and subsequent PUD documents. Community park to serve all of South Cheyenne was intended and required to be provided along the edge of the subdivision. So we've been working for years, literally years, with XL Energy in Black Hills, the corner of Murray Drive and Avenue C or Loving Trail has a high pressure metering station there. And we've also been working with parks, as you may have seen the recent PUD amendments going through. So working with the Parks Department to dedicate and master plan the area for the public park and carve out the southern portion for private recreation. And I think, that's all been approved by the governing body, and we are excited to kind of bring this plat forward to create some of those surrounding right-of-way extensions. And we've got buy-in from XL Energy to go ahead and reconfigure their parcel to allow for those two roads to go through. So huge step forward for the network and for Sweetgrass and for development of the park. So really excited to bring this before you this evening. Generally, no major comments on the plat with the exception of the roadways. There's about 1.5 miles of roads surrounding the three open sides of this plat, or 3.5. And so, they're obviously with the recreational uses and the city park. There are no commercial lots or residential lots included in this subdivision. This is just rights of way and open space recreation parcels. So, and the reason I kind of bring that up and call it out is because the condition to create a plan prior to recording the plat is totally acceptable. We understand the need to kind of define and figure out how these roads are going to be constructed. There are sort of development actions forthcoming on 3 of the sides of this plat. And the idea with this plat itself is just to, like I said, create those right-of-way extensions that are hugely needed for the network and good for Sweetgrass. But there's no mechanism in place for funding those. So we will continue to work with staff, engineering, and the other MPO on creating those rights of way extensions to better the network. But there's no mechanism to be able to fund those constructions with this plat. And like I said, we have been working with parks on the timing of that dedication that works best for them. And I think it would benefit everybody, including the city and including the residents of South Cheyenne, if we could record the plat to create the parcels in the rights of way, potentially prior to having to sort of bond for those roadway extensions. I feel pretty confident that we can work out an MOU or a development agreement with the city, pretty expeditiously. But having the condition be tied to recordation is problematic. So in my mind, and in talking with Sweetgrass, my client, we would prefer that be maybe tied to a building permit or a further development action, just to allow us, one, the time to put that together, and two, the ability to have some other development action tied to it that would have revenue. And I would mention that the entirety of the platted lots in the subdivision are not for sale. So the 45 acres on the north end will be donated, free to the city, free of charge as part of the open space for Sweetgrass. And then the southern portion, which is a little under 30 acres, will be donated to a private recreation developer. Should that not occur, or if that does occur, either way, if that land is developed, then there will be a requirement to build some of those adjacent rights away. Obviously, utilities extensions are another big expense that's not mentioned in the staff report. So I apologize for being a bit long-winded, but we would hope that we could tie that condition number 2 to prior to further development action as opposed to prior to recordation. If we record the plat, that would create the 2 parcels that are proposed to be donated. And that's pretty important to both the private recreation developer and the City of Cheyenne Parks Department. to be able to have those be saleable or, giftable parcels. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Other than that, we agree with everything in the staff report, and the idea that there has to be a plan, there has to be a development agreement. It's just the timing of it that's a little bit problematic.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn it over to anybody else, could you please flesh out the phrase private recreation developer a little bit so we have an idea of what we're talking about? Because I was trying to figure out why we needed 2 lots.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I did want to mention also that I wanted to apologize for being remote. I'd hoped to be in person for this meeting, but wasn't able to make it. So I appreciate you hearing me virtually. Some of you may have heard or seen in other actions like the PUD amendment that there is a large indoor recreation center private developer who's built facilities elsewhere in the country and is interested in building basically an indoor field house. So it'd be a track and field facility with some basketball courts and other recreation facilities. And they typically have those that people will travel there with their team and train for a week. So it's kind of a sports retreat, so to speak. And then they hold regional and national tournaments in these facilities. And they think that, all the number, as far as they're not my client, but as far as I understand from what they've told me, they've kind of got the whole deal put together, but a big linchpin in that is having the land for the project. And so Sweetgrass has offered um, to donate that land to their project so that they can bring this field house to Cheyenne. So that's what the south half of the parcel is designated for. It's in a recreation zone in the PUD. So if that deal fell through for any reason, it doesn't kind of automatically become something else. There is a provision in the PUD that could be developed for residential, but there's a couple steps that would have to happen for that to take place. So the intent is for the entirety of the plat to be recreational uses. The northern 45 acres would be a public city park. And we've been working with Parks on getting a master plan put together for that. There will be a full public process, just like any other parks master plan.
Hey, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
I think Commissioner Mathia, you were moving first.
I was just wondering, does the applicant know anything about the funding that the parks has that will be able to take care of this new enlarged park?
Chair, through you, that's a good question. I think there are some funds available. Additionally, the Sweetgrass, when it was created with the annexation agreement, there's a separate fee structure additional to the standard fees for parks and rec development and for transportation development. So for the parks part, we've been in discussions about what they have money for. As it is, I mean, it's just part of in any development when you have a public park requirement, right? There's some public obligation there, but I think we have talked about some avenues, and there's definitely enough funding right now to make sure that we get the master plan process, which is not inexpensive in and of itself, finished, and then the actual development of it. There'll be some funds remaining, and then we're looking at other additional avenues, both public and private, to fund that. And to jump back a little bit to the surrounding roads, that condition number 2, like I mentioned, there are some funds available, but not enough to build 1.5 miles of roads and utilities. I did attend a meeting this morning with YDOT and Leeds and MPO about sort of some of the regional improvements that need to happen, and Loving Trail and Avenue C came up. So it may be part of a larger network improvement plan, but all of that is very preliminary. And so right now, I think the key is to be able to create these parcels for the 2 potential recreation developers. I mean, the city for sure, and the other potential, so that can move forward as we work through the funding strategies and the MOU and development agreements to kind of go full development on the surrounding roadways.
And Commissioner Laird, you had a question?
I do. Thank you. I'm just wondering about this East Nation Road at the south end of the plat and the east end of that where it meets Sweetgrass Drive isn't exactly aligned. It's offset from the road, that same road, I guess, on the other side of Sweetgrass Drive. Can you address that?
I can. So we've been working with Sweetgrass and the development partner on those parcels you see to the east. I think there's some reconfiguration that needs to happen in that plat. So there will be a forthcoming plat to realign that road. So it'll connect. And we have that prepared and they have their development plans in order. They're just not quite ready to turn that in at this point. So the idea is that that'll be replatted to align. Currently, that's all just vacant prairie land.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners who are attending via Zoom?
Yes, this is Justin Tripp,
Commissioner Tripp?
Chairman. Through you, I just had a question. Do we know what type of industry is going to come on that west side, or potentially what type of industrial warehouse?
Chair, through you, we don't control the lands to the west. I know there is a nonprofit housing developer that was looking at some of the land in that unplatted triangle to the west of East Nation Road. So that would be extended through. You can see the floodplain there on the map. So that's a challenging extension, but we are working with them on how to push East Station through to connect with the west portion of that. But there's no warehouse or industrial development here. It's just the two residential or two recreational lots.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Tripp, is that adequate or do you have further questions?
Nope, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I've got another couple of questions, but anything from other commissioners via Zoom? Hearing none. Casey, can you please talk to us a little bit about what's going on with lots 5 and 6? I understand the pressure station or whatever in lot 3, but we've got these two odd slivers to the west of Loving Trail that are set out as a pair of separate lots. What's
Yep.
the plan for those and why they're of that size?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As you can see on the preliminary plat map, there are a lot of utilities there. So the current that sort of southerly portion of Loving Trail next to Lot 6, that lines up with the Loving Trail all the way down to Bison Business Park. So that was platted, oh gosh, 3 or 4 years ago, with the BOPU water and sewer extensions. And so we've aligned with that where these pipelines are, and that's part of why it was shifted to the east from where it would ideally be. As you can see, when you cross Artesian Road, those high pressure pipelines break off to the east, kind of avoiding Lot 3 where that metering station for those pipelines is. And so these remainders are just kind of left over there. There is a potential that one or both of those could be absorbed into the lands to the west. In the PUD master plan, those are shown as kind of greenway open space parcels where you could have a trail. There's limited work you can do, obviously, on top of those pipelines. So we'll have to work carefully with those different providers, utility providers, to what we can do there. But essentially, they're kind of wasted land because you can't do much with those pipelines there. But there's potentially going to be a greenway trail and some landscaping in those parcels. And you can't put any houses there. You can't develop it for any kind of commercial use or anything.
I guess my concern was whether or not there was just going to be additional grass, green space there and having people trying to cross streets while enjoying the park. But
Yeah, Chair, I appreciate that. It just kind of is what it is, but I think the idea, the ideally there would be a greenway trail running through there with some level of landscaping so that they could be used as a trail corridor with connections across Loving at those main intersections into the park and recreational parcels. That's part of why they're designated as remainder lots on this plat because they're not very usable with all of those pipelines under there. But we do have, we would hope to develop them for some sort of regional trail corridor.
okay, and I guess the last question is I'm curious whose bright idea it was to have both a Nation Way and a Nation Road in the south part of Cheyenne going east and west, because I think this is where we would address nomenclature streets, if I'm correct.
Chair, I can't speak to that. We only named it Nation Road because there is such a thing as Nation Road and Nation Way, but I think Nation Way is spelled as all one word, so I don't know if that helps or not.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant before we ask for the staff report? Hearing none, will staff please present your report?
Chair and members of the commission, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The plat before you is an expedited plat, so preliminary and final plat for roughly 91.29 acres of land. This is proposed south of East College Drive and west of Sweetgrass Drive in the Sweetgrass subdivision. On the future land use map, this area is designated with open space and parks. And then it is for zoning, it is part of the Sweetgrass PUD. So it does fall under their own zoning requirements rather than fully being within the UDC. With the plat, it is proposing 6 lots. So there are 2 lots for recreational development. There is a greenway lot along the extension of Carlson Murray along Murray Road. And then you do have 2 remainder lots to the west along Loving Trail, and then the utility station has its own lot as well. With the proposed plat through staff's review, the biggest kind of comment that came up, which the applicant did note, is how the streets are going to be developed. Per the UDC, the expectation with any plat is that plat basically, whoever creates the plat, they're required to build the streets. So that is the expectation. That usually comes with a requirement that either there be a plan and a bond in place, or there be some sort of development agreement on how those streets are going to be developed and how the utilities are going to be developed for that area that is platted. Something else through staff's review, and you'll notice that there is the staff recommendation for the exception is the block size. That does come up from time to time. With this one specifically, though, because it is for recreational uses, there is the exemption for block size, because generally with recreational use, you're probably going to have different points where you might have an entrance on Sweetgrass Drive, and then there's also an entrance onto Loving Trail on the west. So you do get that connection that goes through. It is just not a public street. So it does break that up. This is part of within the Sweetgrass PUD. It does call this out as being recreational and park area, which is what this plat is basically for. I should also note that some planning commissioners may have seen this preliminary plat before. This was actually a preliminary plat that did get approved several years ago. Preliminary plats are generally only good for, I believe, 2 years, and then they do have to come back through the process. The original preliminary plat was done when it carved off the small square on the eastern side that was for a future fire station. So that's when that preliminary plat was here before Planning Commission and did get approved, and then got approved by council as well. So very similar layout. The biggest changes I would say with this one is that it is splitting that park parcel, and that is due to the applicant going through Planning Commission and City Council and did get approval for the Sweetgrass PUD amendment that basically does allow this to happen, to carve off that southern parcel for a private recreational development. But again, it still is in the PUD, and as the applicant mentioned, is still for recreational purposes. So through staff's review, there are some technical corrections that still need to be made, but those can be finalized prior to recording of the plat. And then the exception to block size. And then the other staff recommendation that prior to recording of the plat is that a plan for installation of all necessary public and private improvements be in place and assured by bond or certified check or a development agreement or a written legal obligation be approved by the city. The development agreement shall be drafted by the applicant and reviewed and agreed upon by the planning and development director and the city engineer. We have that in there, and we have it for prior to recording of the plat, because that's generally, we'd like to have that plan prior to a plat being recorded, as the UDC does require that with any plat. There's this need to have something in place once those streets become public rights of way for them to be developed. This was discussed with our city engineering office. I actually had a discussion with staff engineer Aaron Gates about how to craft this language, and this is what we had agreed upon, as well as discussing this within the planning and development department as well. So with that, staff does recommend approval with the exception and the 2 conditions. And with that, I am available for any questions.
Has there been any conversation about what some kind of an agreement would look like with city attorney?
Chair, through you, this has not been discussed with the city attorney. The city attorney gets involved once there is any agreement drafted and prior to it going to city council for actual adoption.
Has there been any discussion of some sort of a development agreement within the city that could meet the applicant's request that the triggering mechanism occur when there's a development action? Is that something that I hate to negotiate through here, but I'm also thinking I was frustrated when this was proposed as a park donation, and instead the city decided to just put on a ballot, spend $1 million to buy what is now Kiwanis Park, when this was sitting here available and the need for a park over here. And now we're looking at park development. We're trying to say, well, how can we front load shift the process? And it's always annoyed me that we've not pounced on this. So looking for a motion to approve or not, it sounds to me like the gap is, does somebody have to pay for the road before a donation for a park is there, versus let's just promise $1 million and then negotiate.
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director. Perhaps an alternative way forward would be to just have a blanket recommendation that the roadway security instrument be evaluated with city council consideration, because ultimately that will allow them to make that final recommendation with their approval. And also the city engineer will be present at that meeting who can discuss the nuances of either side of things. But I think that might be a better condition to be addressed at the governing body level. Unless Erin Gates from engineering wants to chime in on that, but I'm sure she would appreciate the latter. Or the earlier.
Any other questions from the commission for staff on this item?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Laird.
I'm still on that same issue, but I'm thinking back, as I've heard a lot in the last month or so because of the large proposed annexation south of here, about that when this land was annexed with this proposed large residential development, I was thinking they called it a development agreement that was negotiated and executed with the developer, the landowner. Is that true? And I assume if it was, it didn't cover the details of these particular roads.
Chair, through you. So there was an annexation agreement. Yes, that has come up at plenty of meetings. The annexation agreement didn't do exactly what everybody thinks it does. They didn't promise $15 million over 5 years or anything like that. What the annexation agreement did was basically lay out a framework of how Sweetgrass is going to develop. They have a different kind of fee schedule for park fees. They have an additional fee that they put on themselves for transportation related fees. It talked a little bit about the donation of the park and things like that. It's all very standard things that would have been required regardless of the annexation agreement. It did not speak about the roads themselves and how they'd be developed. I mostly spoke about the fact that they can have slightly different road variations than what the UDC calls out or what standard road sections would require for certain areas of Sweetgrass, but it did not specify how exactly these roads would be developed.
And another one, if I may, back to the East Nation Road. So the offset I mentioned, and the developer said that they'll clean that up as they replat, I guess, the land to the east of that is just kind of in draft form now. Is that what I'm hearing? And is the Planning Development Department comfortable with that?
Chair, through you, I'd have to defer to our engineering office if they're fine with how it's currently off-centered. I do know with the subdivision to the east, it is platted. It does have a final plat that is recorded. No utilities or roads are in place at this time.
I was just thinking if it would be helpful to the cause, we could make a condition about that just to make sure it's recognized as we move forward our recommendation. But another part of that same thing, I'm not real crazy about the name of the road being in conflict. Is this how roads get named? I take it this road doesn't exist anywhere else with this name, so this would be the one time when it also.
Chair, through you. So
saying it does.
we do name roads with plats. This name does exist. It actually does exist further to the west. You can kind of see it on these maps. It just says Nation, but it is Nation Road out there. It does exist. This is just the other portion of it. But yes, when it comes to naming roads, that happens at the platting stage. We do actually sometimes have conflicts and do require those to be changed. We have multiple agencies that look at that. So we do have emergency management looks at it. County clerk's office looks at it, county recording, everybody kind of takes a look at the names of the roads to make sure that they work. With this, there were no comments, no concerns with the naming.
Is that other portion of the road in the county? Is there any part of it that's in the city?
Chair, through you, yes. The rest of the road further to the west is in the county. So eventually, as Mr. Palma had mentioned, basically this portion of East Nation being platted will eventually connect into the county portion further to the west. So then you have a connection that fully goes from Sweetgrass out towards South Greeley, and then you'll have East Murray to the north that also, so you'll have more points of entrance and exit into Sweetgrass rather than the two connections that they currently only have along College.
Okay, thank you for that, because that was going to be my next question, is whether with various utility easements, whether there was going to be able to be a connection, or if we were going to live in a world where East Nation Road did not connect to East Nation Road.
And Mr. Chair, as the applicant mentioned, there is the potential for that triangle kind of portion that's there to be developed. I can't say what with at this time. We haven't had anything officially proposed. It could be housing. But then with that development, we would require basically East Nation to connect to Nation that's in the county so that it extends. Also with this plat, it's hard to see on the preliminary, but a little bit better on the final, but Artesian does have a connection into Loving Trail as well with this plat. So there is a small portion that would then connect Artesian in the county to Loving Trail. So then there is actually, I guess you could call it a third point. It just doesn't go straight across because you have the park, but it does create another point.
I've got one more question, trying to figure out how to solve for this issue of sequencing. And I appreciate the director's comments. Would it be possible to advance this without the East Nation Road designation and cross that bridge when and if there is a sale of the parcel to, or a donation of the parcel to the developer of the field house? I guess this may be a question for applicant as well, but I guess we're in city council in city presentation. Or is that not work?
Mr. Chair, Seth Lloyd, the Planning Development Department, we need to select road names with the plat. You could recommend that the council require the applicant to change the name of the road to a different name, but it would need to be named going into recording.
That's not the question. I'm wondering about whether if the hangup is a plat that has a road there, if the road remains unplatted unless and until something happens that would cause the need for that road, like say a field house, or am I way off base here?
Mr. Chair, with a platting action adjacent to a major street on the major street plan, we would expect that major street to be platted. Nation is a major street on the major street plan, so we'd expect this platting action to dedicate at least half of the street. Because of the nature of the development and the area, dedicating the full street would be preferred.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Are there any other questions for city staff? Is there any member of the public here that wants to comment on this issue? Seeing none, is there any member of the public online that wants to comment on this?
Mr.
Okay,
Chair, I just have the applicant's hand raised, but not a different member of the public.
okay. Would the applicant like to respond to the non-existent public comment before we close and proceed?
Mr. Chair, I appreciate your humoring me on the public comment period. I appreciate Mr. Bloom's suggestion. I think the director is appropriate in deferring that conversation to, we can have more discussions internally. I also wanted to mention that we can work with emergency services and the GIS department on renaming the road. So if the planning commission sees fit to move the expedited plat forward with the conditions as written, we're fine with that.
Okay, and my view is it doesn't make sense to rename the road if it's going to connect with East Nation elsewhere. It seems like a bad idea from east to west all the way across.
Yeah.
So before we close public comment, and if we're trying to bridge the gap between committing public funds to, or committing private funds, or a condition to commit private funds to developing the road before we allow the plat to move forward, and trying to defer it and stay within the UDC. Can we please get some guidance on what that might look like for those who might make a motion? Commission Director Bloom, how if we were rewording the condition, would you please spoon feed that to us as an alternative?
And Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I think it's okay to move forward with it subject to staff's recommendation. And then at the end, just add something that says, noting that the Planning Commission requests further discussion regarding the timing of the development agreement related to public and private improvements as specified in condition 2 by the governing body. I think that something along those lines would work.
And then applicant, would that help?
2A specifically.
Yep. Chair, through you, I think that is completely acceptable to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to close public comment and open this up for a motion from the commission. And I want to thank the developers of Sweetgrass for continuing to press forward with a park in this area.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Laird.
I move to approve the A&H Park at Sweetgrass preliminary plat, advancing the final plat to the governing body with staff recommended exception and conditions.
It's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, amendment, etc. from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Commissioner Laird. Yeah.
I'd like to propose the amendment that Director Bloom suggested earlier, though I'm not very fast at writing down, so he started off. So adding on to the end of 2A, I think something like the words, noting that the Planning Commission requests further discussion relating to the timing of and that's where I ran. Yeah, so I need some more help.
Commissioner Bloom, please help.
Of the public and private improvements that would be contained within the development agreement. And if you would like to add, you can say specifically whether they should be triggered to a building permit or subdivision recording. Sorry, plat recording. I like that better.
So contained within the what? What was the next words there?
What were the previous words? Sorry, before contained.
Okay, so further discussion relating to the timing of the public and private improvements that would be contained within the
development agreement.
So my preference would be to end it there, because I'm sure this same discussion will be taking place with the governing body and their committees. So I don't know that we need to go into any more details or provide options for them.
That should be fine.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the made motion. Is there a second to the motion to amend?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. Will staff please call roll on on Commissioner Laird's amendment?
So we're on the amendment. Justin Tripp,
Yes.
Tony Laird,
Aye.
Bob Mathia,
Aye.
Amy Hernandez.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now we're back on the main motion as amended. Is there any discussion or further amendment to the motion? Hearing none. Will staff please call roll?
Tony Laird,
Aye.
Bob Mathia,
Aye.
Amy Hernandez.
Aye.
Justin Tripp.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Other business staff announcements.
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, you may have noticed that with your minutes beginning on the meeting for June, we have changed the format of our minutes. We used to do verbatim minutes where we took extensive notes of everything that happened. And there could be the opportunity for error in there, and they were very time consuming. We have now changed them to action minutes, which detail motions that were made, the motion maker, and it details folks that had public comment. It does meet the requirements for minute taking. And also we've gone a little bit above because we've also included links to all of the Zoom meetings that have been recorded from January 5th of this year onward, and we can plan to continue that. So within the action minutes, you also note at the end of every item, there will be a timestamp. That is so if one wants to know the exact discussion, they're welcome to fast forward through the Zoom video to get that specific item. You all are our guinea pig right now. So you're the first board that we've implemented this as standard, and we do intend to move it to all of our planning and development related boards. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us, but it's pretty snazzy, we believe.
Thank you. Any other announcements or other business?
Mr. Chair, Connerway Planning and Development Department. There should be no mid-month July meeting, so enjoy Frontier Days, enjoy July. Won't have a meeting for that meeting. Potentially there is no August meeting for the first meeting of the month. Potentially. I'm not going to guarantee that yet because we haven't had our submittal deadline, which is this Wednesday, for projects. So the only thing that we could see is potentially zone changes, or possibly other items. But right now, first meeting of the month has no plats, has no annexation, assigned zonings, or anything like that. Later this week, you should see probably an email from me with a new updated unified development code. The entertainment district and all the changes for the historic horse racing did get adopted by the governing body. So I do have to make those changes. Carports failed on second reading, so that didn't go anywhere. So you won't see that update. But the historic horse racing did get adopted. Other than that, I don't believe I have any other announcements at this time.
Chair, members of the Planning Commission, sorry, one more item regarding the historic horse racing changes. There was one change that did occur through the council, the governing body adoption process. Initially, there was a modification to the performance standards for in relation to childcare centers. Two things. One thing had happened at the Planning Commission level is it removed the requirement that it only applied to standalone centers and it applied to any type of center. Like if it was in a mixed use development, if it was in a strip center, those types of things. Ultimately, that provision was deleted from the development standards section, and it was included in a new section 10 of the special use permit approval process that basically said that in the governing body making a determination as to whether or not this is appropriate at a location, they could evaluate its proximity to any standalone child care center. So this was modified to be a review criteria because there could be geographic limitations or geographic conditions that could limit access or make it that it's not truly related. It could be a creek, it could be a highway, it could be a roadway. And also there was the fear of what would happen if someone opened up a childcare specifically to make one non-conforming. So it was changed to a review criteria through the special use permit approval process. So that was the one significant amendment that was made through the process between the Planning Commission and the governing body.
Okay, thank you. Any other business? With that, I guess I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. If one is required.
So moved.
Okay. I believe we're adjourned.